Hello, beautiful friends. Casper here again. New video. It's Thursday, and we will look into platinum, palladium, and some miners. A very, very, very small sector that I think could, during this 2024, actually have some sort of revival. Again, it's still in a downtrend, but I think there are some setups that if we break certain trend lines, certain levels also, that platinum and palladium could have a big bounce. We have been looking at palladium and platinum on the weekly updates for a long time. So I think you know how that chart looks. And also I asked you guys on Twitter for any stock recommendations that we should look at. There were many people applying, but most of them were the same stocks. And I tried to find some. Maybe I have missed some, but the miners, there are just very, very, very few. It really surprised me how little miners you can choose from. Again, to me, this shows that this market is extremely, extremely small, extremely, extremely thin. And again, these miners, when the metals goes up, these miners will absolutely do huge gains very, very shortly. Again, I think these miners is mostly a 1 to 2 year trade, you can say, because I don't think these are long-term holds. I think you should play them more as a longer term swing because once if the metal starts to drop again or to stagnate, I think these miners can easily drop 50%, even more, as we have seen over the past 3 years. Some of them have dropped 90%. But again, let's see where we are. Let's look at it here. We will be looking at metals, miners, and platinum ratios. I could have done palladium as well. I chose platinum. I could have done it the other way around, but doesn't matter. So thank you all for subscribing here and also on Twitter. Highly appreciated. So I will give you my honest opinion on what I think could be coming here. Again, it's not confirmed, but what I think could be in the cards for 2024, at least for the metals. And if the metals breaks out, the miners will follow. So we will be looking at platinum here. Long-term, weekly chart. So yeah, basically we have the 2008 highs up here. Huge drawdown there, bear flag, and eventually a major collapse. Again, connecting here at roughly 750. And you can see here 750 is actually a level that is hit very often. You can even go as high as 800. So we have this kind of zone where when we get down here, it is getting bought up. Also, we have the 2020 mega crash here where we actually just blasted all the way down. In my view, marked the lows, I think in many views, of this entire macro overall structure. That spike right there, huge surge up. And you can clearly see this golden trend line, very well defined, based on these three tops over here. Now we're coming down and now we're looking a bit more short term, but again, short term, this is 3 years worth of trading. It is still in my conviction that we have a neckline here, that blue bad boy up there, coming down, connecting there, coming down, connecting there. And I'm very confident, until proven otherwise, that we are making a right shoulder right here. So also you can see how well also that right there, the golden trend line, you can see how it acts as support and resistance very, very often. You know, we're peaking above, but we're coming down again also over here. So the golden trend line is important. So yeah, I think when we can get above, and then I think when we crack that roughly, let's call it $1,050 level, that is the big confirmation. But I do think overall this is that pattern and we're going higher. Also, I have high hopes for gold and silver in 2024, and yes, platinum will follow if that holds true. So basically, in my view, we are bottoming here for platinum. Again, this doesn't happen tomorrow. I think we will break, you know, mid 2024. If this leg here has some sort of symmetry, you will break, you know, summer 2024 if my thesis holds up. Again, we don't know until we see it. So right, we haven't got any confirmation yet. But definitely that zone here, very, very thick, and that is where things is getting bought up, you can see here. So yeah, that is my overall take on platinum. Also, I want to show you something that you can use on any chart, any ticker. If you see here, we have a huge move up, right? Kind of like a blow off top. If you ever see a peak like this, drop down into a bear like there, that is more or less always a sign. And obviously you have to break down from that bear flag. That is very, very often a sign that you are going into much lower prices. You can, if you find this setup on any chart, any time frame, that is usually a very good shorting opportunity. That is just what I'm trying to say here. But again, that is not within this topic. So platinum here, that is my take here on platinum. And I think when we break here, we are going to much, much higher prices. That's when the big rally is starting for platinum. Palladium, different beast, has actually come down insanely here. Let's call it 70% from the peak all the way down here. And in my personal opinion, we are also coming into some levels here that are showing to me that we could see some sort of a bottom here. Again, you can also add this box across here, so you can see 850 to 950 is a big zone where we often see buyers and sellers stepping in. So big support and resistance zone right there. But the most important thing for me, one of them is this golden uptrend here, excuse me, the green uptrend there. And if we zoom in, you can see we're actually playing with that as we speak. But we also have this blue falling wedge coming down here. Again, to me, showing that I think we are very close to our bottom here in Palladium. Again, this is the weekly time frame. So you don't just over 1 week do like that. That doesn't make any sense at all. It takes a long time to play out. And definitely when we had these false breakdowns here and we had that huge pop, people who follow me knows that I was very excited at that moment. We can go to the daily, and usually you find support. You break out, make a higher high, well, not almost a higher high. And when you come down to visit that upper trend line from above, you usually see a bounce. But clearly, it just kept crashing all the way down. And now we are at the lower side of that blue falling wedge, the last kind of support for that wedge. Also, we are into that support and resistance zone once again here. So again, I'm looking for the next 3 months here to see if we can start to somehow do some sideways price action for Palladium. Again, this is not a typical bottoming pattern per se. So definitely, we are not out of the woods yet, but I'm quite confident that we are more or less at the bottom for this mega move down here. Yep, that is basically what I want to say about. You can also see here, this is March, excuse me, 2008. We had roughly that 70% drawdown for Palladium. And yeah, I think we are roughly at the same over here again. But again, we will know in 4 months' time if this is the bottom or not. And I think this coincides also with platinum going higher, palladium going higher. Again, now we will look at the miners. Well, almost. We have the SPPP, which is the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust. A very well-defined chart in my view. We have this golden uptrend here with a parallel golden channel right there. Green support coming across. And again, combining physical, platinum, and palladium, the price, you can see we are coming down to that green support. If we align it correctly here, you can actually see we are actually touching it right over here. Same thing, the blue falling wedge overall, in my view, is also if you have a breakout here, this is palladium and platinum. In my view, that is the early signs that we are about to break out of this falling wedge right there. Again, showing me that this could be a potential huge bottom. Also, we are at the March 2020 lows here. So we could have a touch here. In my view, if you get a touch there, SPPP is a huge buy, given the fact that we're also in here. So yeah, I am definitely expecting a breakup here to the upside. Again, 2 scenarios can come from a falling wedge, in my opinion. You break out, bullish falling wedge, or you have a huge capitulation here and you get back in your snap up. These are the 2 outcomes that I see more or less all the time. Usually you break to the upside. So again, I think overall platinum, palladium, and combining these 2 are showing signs that we have a bottom here very, very closely. But again, we need 4 months, 3 months time to verify that. Not tomorrow, not next week. We need 1 quarter of a year, in my view, to really prove that the bottom is in for the metals. Now the miners, again, the miners are very difficult. They are so small in market cap size. Also, I only have like roughly 8 here. Maybe there is a few more. Let me know in the comments if there's more miners that make sense. Some of them are in the billions from a market cap point of view, but most of them are very tiny, below 100 million, even below 50 million. So again, very small sector. And yeah, but let's get into it here. Again, the miners, PLG, very well defined yellow parallel channel right there. And my main focus is that squeeze right there. Again, seeing the same kind of falling wedge also here on PLG, as you looked at on both the metals just 1 minute ago. And again, you can see here that we are trying to peak out from that blue falling wedge. And again, in my view, the confirmation gets when we get above that white horizontal support at roughly 0.23. That is where I think we will confirm that we have now made a bottom here at the lower side of that channel. And getting above here, in my view, is a huge long signal for PLG. Nothing much to say. I think if we break here, I think we have this level here at 2.8 we could potentially go to. And if the platinum and palladium prices have a big run here again, the upper side of that yellow parallel channel is the obvious, max greed target. Again, this is at $7 here. And we did hit that in 2020 as well, roughly 7. So again, max greed target could be up there, but again, very small, very, very small miner. 100 million, again, it sounds like a lot, but really in today's age, it is just tiny. So look for that 0.23, give or take that level to get taken out, breaking the falling wedge, getting above, in my view, that is a clear sign that we have with a very high probability, we have a bottom here. I think if we zoom in, you can actually also, to some degree, maybe have that kind of invert head and shoulders or double-headed invert head and shoulders. So definitely this is very much like a bottoming that it is trying to set in. Confirmation is that level that I just mentioned before. Okay. SBSW, Siberian Stillwater, very difficult chart in my view. I had some high hopes here that this was just a huge, when we started to do this, I'm like, okay, this is a short handle. But again, you can see here the blue falling wedge, which I think is the theme of these videos ever since, for the past 3 years. A lot of them has just been in that very well-defined falling wedge. Also, you can see here at roughly $4, you have a huge supply and demand zone. Every time we get there, people are stepping in, buying it. And you can see again here just recently in 2023, we have buyers coming in after we dropped below from that falling wedge, getting back into that big level at roughly 6, getting rejected, and now we're coming down once again. So basically, I'm just waiting to see how this falling wedge resolves. If we can start to break out, getting above that $6 level and breaking that falling wedge, in my view, that is a great sign that the bottom here again could be in for SPSW. Again, it's all aligned here. Again, you can see the timing is always, 4 months or so. That is when we confirm it. Again, looking at the metals and the SPPP, that next quarter, I think will be will give us clarity whether or if we should allocate money into this sector again. And yeah, we can see here we are roughly 5 now. And again, if I think we break here, depending on how the metals do, again, we have a big ceiling up here, which I think could be run. That's roughly 20. So IMPUY, difficult name to say, also a very insanely messy chart. We're looking back here roughly 20 years, excuse me. Pretty well defined yellow parallel channel here, very, very long term. That trend line, the golden here, is also very well defined. You can see here we had a huge meltdown here. Actually, I want to zoom in. Just before the big March 2020 crash. You reached the top of that channel, huge collapse, came back in, retest, and then we blasted higher. Then we had some retesting done over here. So we had one wave down, and then we're getting back. And then actually I thought this at 8 here, that is as low as we go. But clearly, you can see here, we dropped back into this overall yellow parallel channel here. And ever since, it has been a bit of a downtrend there, that yellow one. I hope you can see it here. It is very slim. And we're actually trying to, maybe I can do like this so you get a better view. So at least for now, it is breaking out and it is actually retesting it here. Very early still, but let's see how it does here. Again, I think if we are to get down to the March 2020 lows at 2.75, again, if you're interested in getting into platinum and palladium miners, that is not the worst place to be buying. But again, in my view, this was, when when the entire world got closed down, that is how low as we got. And I think the times are better here, but maybe let's see again, if we get there, in my view, that is a place to be. But anyways, here in the shorter term, let's see if that retest holds and we can maybe find it higher. But again, very messy chart, and again, very difficult to get any clear signs, at least the way I look at things. This is a $3.4 billion company, so it is a bigger one. But yeah, definitely very, very tricky to set up here. Looking at it here, FEME is a very small miner that was suggested, and as you can see, there's nothing much you can do, at least not the way I look at things from this chart. It's only it is 15 years old, and it has basically, I want to draw it as beautiful as I can, done something like this. Right there, you can see it, something like that. Again, you can't get much out of it, so very difficult to time an entry. But again, you can clearly see that volatility has came back in. This was very, very well defined, and then suddenly you have volatility. And usually at the end of moves or big, at big topping and bottoming points, you usually get a lot of volatility. So again, that is the only takeaway that I can see from this stock here, is that you have volatility, but you have to wait and see how it goes. Again, very difficult to get any clear limits or any clear levels to look at. PDM, Palladium 1 mining, is, in my view, you can align, you can create this chart by one supply and demand zone here at roughly 0.05, and again, that falling wedge. Again, the name of the game, we want to break out here. Then, in my view, this downtrend is over, basically waiting for that break here. You can play it differently. You can play the retest. You can play however it happens after the break. You can buy the break and have a stop below here. But again, that falling wedge is the name of the game, in my view. Nothing more, nothing less for this chart. And if you want to really have some sort, again, so it's not so well defined, but I want to show that it is there, and then you can take it as you may. Again, a very skewed possible inverted head and shoulders right here. Not textbook at all. The reasoning is also that this is only a $20 million market cap, so you get some very weird setups. But I will still say this: if we do like that, I think it is valid. That very short term, half a year worth of inverted head and shoulders into that supply, breaking out of the falling wedge. It is actually quite okay. Again, very small miner, and they are very difficult, very tricky. So yeah, that is how I would view PDM. DMX, also small, only $30 million. Again, I think overall you have a pretty well-defined horizontal channel here, again with a bit of a breakout there and a fake down here, and everything in between is very, very difficult to look at. I will say this though, that actually, again, we could have some sort of inverted head and shoulders here where we have actually broken it. We do have a lot of momentum here, so I think this could be the sign of something. And if we get above, we are actually above, roughly 0.27. I think if we can consolidate above here, that is a place to look for to go long. Or you can buy some huge retesting here, but definitely this is very, very interesting as we speak, clearing that overall inward head and shoulders break. Usually we can get a big retest here of the neckline, so definitely also look into that. But again, getting into these kind of minors, you need to play with the stop loss. Otherwise, you end up getting wrecked big time. But definitely this is a quite nice formation, and I think you should be seeing it as right now we're trying to break a 3-year long inward head and shoulders. Now we need some confirmation or some sort of sideways action to get the entry. If you haven't bought that clear break of the neckline at all already, then that looks quite nice, to be honest. Again, air here also, I think it was recommended like in 20% of the posts. Difficult chart to do. I have no idea what this gap is, to be honest. But anyways, we have this supply and resistance zone up here. You can see there connections all the way across. So definitely not the most well-defined, but it is there nonetheless. Again, I could only find this blue channel here, right there. That's the only defined formation that I could find, and we're breaking out maybe some sort of retesting here. But definitely, if you want to play clean air, again, it's only a $14 million company, insanely small. So the moves are very erratic, and you can see there that is maybe the short-term trend line to get above. After we broke that channel, some sort of retesting, and then maybe we can blast higher there. Again, play with your stops, because these very, very small miners, they can drop 50% in a heartbeat. So AMC, not AMC as you would think it is, that, what's it called, the meme stock. This was also suggested many times. I looked into it. I think it's more of a copper play. Anyways, we will take it. If it is a copper play, fine. But I do really like the fact that we're coming in to the measured move of that overall head and shoulders pattern right here. Again, if we get down to the measured move at roughly 1.75, again, that should be a bottom. Also, we have a very well-defined channel here, and also an internal golden squeeze there. So again, if we squeeze here and you blast higher, that is, in my view, an entry. Or if we hit that inverted head and shoulders target down here, also looking for longs. I know Peter Granich is very, very much interested in this company. He says that this is probably the best play from a copper point of view. So take it as you may, but definitely well-defined target could be met here again, but we're also squeezing here internally right there. So look for that. If we zoom in here on the daily, I want to show you that actually right now you can see we have a lot of momentum here down, and we are trying to visit these lows right here. So very big, important moment in time. I think if we drop down here below these, we could actually have a cascading effect down to our inverted head and shoulders target here. Again, February and March will show us what happens here. But again, Peter Granich is very much interested in this stock and heavily invested, I think. So there is that. PGE, Stillwater, very clear downtrend golden here, broken. And ever since we have gone sideways, more or less sideways, right? With a huge, not sideways, but the range is still big, but nonetheless, more or less sideways here. And what I could find here is that we have this bigger overall support and resistance zone here. And then we have this lower one here coming in there. So my take is that if we get down to, roughly 0.11 again, we should see buyers stepping in. Also, you have this some sort of blue wedge right there where we are squeezing up as we speak. Again, in my view, if we spike to the upside, that is just a huge sign that we are in for a big move. But it could be that we are getting a false breakdown into that zone and then we grind higher. Again, here you can see the apex, again, stops just around summer 2024. So I think, within that next quarter into the summer, that is where we will see if the platinum group metals really wants to kick into gear. POD, again, weird chart. Well, it is kind of weird. Anyways, just look at that entry over here. Beautiful, insanely well-defined level. Breakout, boom, didn't look back ever since. And yeah, you can actually see that huge blow off top here, and you had that bear flag over here again, and ever since it has come straight down to the point where it all started, more or less. Yes, we're dipping a bit below, but anyways, I think the only thing to look for is this channel here. Again, there's no bottoming pattern here in my view, not in the textbook anyway. So breaking out from that falling channel is definitely a start, and then maybe we can start to work on something sideways here, again into 2024. POD also a small, roughly 10 million only miner. Again, if there are miners that are bigger, let me know. But again, the market of the sector, Palladium, Platinum, insanely small, insanely small. But again, that's also where you can find the huge upsides. You can get these kind of moves over here. So good. That was the miners that were suggested by you people. Thank you very much for that. Very quickly before I go, I want to show you, I took platinum against silver. What I'm looking at here, we have that golden falling trend line there. Again, not insanely well defined, but definitely you have a lot of connections. You can see it right there. And again, in my view, if we get above that 50 ratio level, breaking out and getting above, that's actually where I think platinum could be in for some outperformance of silver. Again, if you look at platinum here, insanely, at least looking back to for the past 20 years, it has underperformed heavily against silver. And usually when gold and silver runs, platinum will also run. So you can actually argue that maybe, just maybe, if we get the breakout there, that actually platinum will be the better play, the better pure play anyway. But you could also have the fact that basically both are running, but silver is just outperforming it, and you're just going further down, obviously. But definitely that golden trend line there getting above that 50-55 ratio level. In my view, if that happens, platinum from a metal to metal perspective is actually a better play. Platinum against gold. Very well defined top here, back from the 2000s, and ever since, again, the chart is a bit weird, but you have that channel there. Actually quite nice to see. A bit of a dropout here in March 2020, and again some internal stuff going on there. It was respected a lot here, but then ever since it has just been wiggling around that internal golden channel here again. You want this to break to the upside to have platinum outperform gold. And as long as we're in this channel here, it is definitely the gold that is in favor. But the fact that we had that huge collapse here, maybe I don't think we will go below that. But again, I could be very wrong on that statement. So yeah, that is it. Also, last but not least, I want to show you platinum against the Nasdaq. I haven't drawn anything, but I want to show you this was the bottom here in the early 2000s. And now again, in my view, if we get above that 0.10, that will be the kind of same thing. Also, I want to show you how much platinum dropped before it reversed. This is from 1986 into the 2000s, and then we have from 2007 into as we speak. So roughly, this is minus 97%, 98 even, and here we have 95. So definitely the moves that you're coming into here are insanely. And again, I think if we get above here, that 0.10 level, I think we have a similar, yes, we have a bit of a drawdown here as we speak. But if we hold the lows from November here, that is still, my take that platinum is starting to outperform the overall Nasdaq. Again, I think we need to get into 2025 to see any outperformance. So definitely it could take up to a year or even more than a year to really confirm this possible bottom right here. So that is it, a long video on platinum, palladium. So miners, again, the sector is just insanely small from a market cap perspective. There is not many miners, and most of the miners is in Africa. So again, it doesn't take much to really distort the supply and demand story in these two metals. I hope you enjoyed it. A long video. I hope you stayed until the end. But definitely you can see here, platinum palladium today is doing some really, really nice gains here at this possible bottom that we're looking at. But again, we need 1 quarter, maybe 2, to confirm it. But again, I hope I will be able to rotate some gains from uranium into these small miners. It doesn't have to be much. You don't need to invest like 50% of your capital into this sector. Only 2-3%. And if you see these gains that you saw in the past, you can easily have those 1-2-3%. And when you're going to leave or exit your positions, you can actually have like 10-20% of your portfolio, in platinum and palladium, and then you exit. So you don't need to allocate much. You don't need to risk a lot. You don't need to risk a lot to gain a lot here, really. If we get that move that might be coming. I will stop talking here and get some water. Thank you, guys. Leave a comment below. Do you have any big reminders? Do you agree, disagree? As always, I'm all ears. Stay safe, guys. Bye.